Amara had always believed she was living the kind of life others only dreamed of. Her husband, Daniel, was everything she had ever wished for: gentle, thoughtful, and unwaveringly loyal. Their marriage had sailed smoothly for 7 years, grounded in trust and mutual admiration. After years of navigating busy city life, they had recently moved to a quiet suburban neighborhood, a move they both saw as a chance to breathe and deepen their connection. They'd created their own routines: Saturday mornings filled with pancakes and jazz, quiet evening walks discussing dreams and ideas, and spontaneous dancing in the kitchen when their favorite songs came on. Daniel worked from home as a digital consultant, always with a cup of black coffee beside him. Amara had taken her passion for gardening and turned it into a modest blog that was slowly gaining traction. Life felt simple, safe, and full of affection. Daniel often praised Amara for her creativity and calm spirit. He would look at her across the table during breakfast and say, "I'm the luckiest man alive." Amara would smile back, knowing in her heart that their relationship was rare. They were a team. Every small moment, from shared glances to silly jokes, felt like pieces of a beautiful puzzle they had built together. Neighbors called them the golden couple. Even strangers they met at community events noticed their easy chemistry. One rainy Thursday, Daniel surprised her with a romantic dinner he had prepared himself: candlelight, soft music, and her favorite wine. They talked for hours, revisiting old memories, laughing at forgotten jokes, and promising to plan a vacation soon. Amara was touched by the gesture. She took a photo of the setup to share later on her blog, captioning it, "When love tastes like homemade lasagna." Just as she put her phone down, it buzzed. A notification banner slid across the top of the screen. She glanced at it quickly and her smile wavered, only for a second, but Daniel didn't notice. She turned the phone face down, refocusing on the man who had just gone out of his way to make her feel cherished. Inside, though, her thoughts began to scatter. The name on the screen was familiar, too familiar, and unexpected. She didn't say anything. She didn't want to ruin the moment. Daniel had planned everything so carefully. The flowers, the candles, the effort, it was all so thoughtful. Her mind kept replaying the brief message she saw. "Hey, long time. Can we talk?" It was enough to stir memories she thought she had buried. Still, she smiled through the rest of the evening. They washed dishes together, talked about movies they wanted to rewatch, and kissed goodnight like they always did. But something inside Amara had shifted. A seed of unrest had been planted, and even though the night ended peacefully, she couldn't ignore the quiet echo of a name from her past, knocking softly at the door of her perfect life. The next morning, Amara sat at her desk, sipping tea, trying to focus on her blog. But her mind kept circling back to the message. She hadn't seen or spoken to Zane in almost a decade. Back in college, he was her first love, intense, spontaneous, emotionally magnetic. Their relationship had burned fast and bright, ending with heartbreak and silence. She had moved on, found peace with Daniel. But now, out of nowhere, Zane was reaching out. Curiosity won. She opened the message. It was brief but deliberate. "Found your blog. Proud of you. Coffee sometime." A rush of memories flooded her mind. Long talks, late-night drives, the fire of young love. She stared at the message for minutes before typing back. "Glad you found it. Hope you're well." She told herself it was innocent, but something in her chest tightened. By the afternoon, he replied again. He was in town for a few days, just passing through. One coffee, for old time's sake. She debated, wrestled with the idea. She hadn't hidden anything from Daniel before. But now, she rationalized, this was harmless. Just a conversation. Nothing more. So she agreed to meet him the next day at a small cafe a few blocks away. When she saw him again, it was like seeing a ghost that remembered everything you tried to forget. He hadn't changed much, still had that same relaxed charm, the same way of speaking softly but intensely. They sat across from each other, talking about everything and nothing. He spoke of regrets, how he never really moved on, how she was the one that got away. Amara smiled politely, but kept her answers guarded. Still, She couldn't deny the flicker of emotion in her chest, the strange pull of nostalgia. She kept glancing at the time. She didn't want to be gone too long. When she finally left, Zane gently said, "I'm glad I saw you again." She nodded and walked away with quick steps, avoiding looking back. That evening, Daniel was waiting for her on the porch. He wrapped his arms around her and asked about her day. She smiled and said, "Met a fellow blogger, we shared ideas." He believed her without hesitation, and that belief stung more than judgment would have. She felt a pang of guilt as he praised her for always being open and honest. Later, in the silence of their bedroom, she lay awake while Daniel slept beside her, wondering why she hadn't told him the truth. She justified it as protecting his peace, but deep down, she knew it was more about avoiding questions she didn't want to answer. She deleted the messages, cleared the chat, told herself it was over. But something had shifted. A door she thought was closed had been cracked open, just enough for uncertainty to slip through. And in that quiet space, the perfect life she had built started to feel less certain, less solid than it had just days before. Days passed, but the memory of Zane lingered. Amara resumed her routine, trying to push him from her mind. But his presence had left a mark. He didn't message again for a while, and she didn't reach out either. Still, each time her phone buzzed, she checked it with a strange anticipation she didn't want to admit. She kept telling herself it was nothing, that nothing had happened. But deep inside, she knew something had changed. Then, one afternoon while Daniel was out picking up groceries, Amara heard a knock at the door. She wasn't expecting anyone. When she opened it, Zane stood there, holding a book from their college days. "Saw this at a shop and thought of you," he said. She hesitated but stepped out onto the porch. She didn't invite him in, but they talked briefly, surface-level chatter, with tension running just beneath it. A sudden drizzle began. They stood under the porch overhang, closer than they should have been. Zane handed her the book, smiling. "I never stopped wondering about you," he said softly. Amara looked away, clutching the book. Before she could respond, her phone rang. Daniel. He was on his way home. She told Zane he should leave. He nodded, stepped forward, and hugged her goodbye. It was brief, but she froze. Daniel pulled into the driveway moments later. He stepped out of the car and saw them. Zane quickly walked away, without a word. Daniel looked at her, his expression unreadable. He didn't say anything then, just walked past her and into the house. She followed, her heart racing. Inside, everything felt unnaturally quiet. Daniel unpacked the groceries in silence, then asked if she wanted tea. She nodded. His calmness was unnerving. That night, as they lay in bed, he finally spoke. "Is there something you want to tell me?" His voice was calm, but distant. Amara hesitated. Her instinct told her to lie, to preserve the illusion. But the weight of his question crushed her defenses. "Zane came by. I didn't know he would. He just showed up," she said, barely above a whisper. "He brought a book we used to read. We talked for a minute, then he left." Daniel turned to her, eyes fixed. "And the hug." She swallowed hard. "I didn't expect it. I didn't mean for him to come. I didn't want anything to happen." His silence was louder than any argument. After a few minutes, he said, "Okay," and turned away. No shouting. No accusations. Just silence. And that hurt more than anger ever could. Amara lay awake, her mind spinning. The truth had been exposed, but not completely. She hadn't told him about the coffee meetup, about the messages, about the feelings she didn't understand. She had crossed a line, not physically, but emotionally. And now, the foundation of her marriage, the trust that once felt unbreakable, had begun to crack. The damage wasn't loud or visible. It was quiet, heavy, and real. The next morning, Daniel was gone before Amara woke up. He left a note on the kitchen table, short, polite, and distant. Had an early call. "See you tonight." No kiss, no smiley face, not even his usual heart at the bottom. She stared at the paper for a long time, trying to figure out how to fix something she wasn't even sure how she broke. The guilt had bloomed fully now, spreading like ink through every part of her day. She cleaned the house, repotted plants, reorganized drawers, trying to make sense of chaos by fixing what she could touch. But inside, she knew none of it would fix what mattered. The silence between them was no longer peaceful. It was dense with questions, doubts, and unspoken fears. That evening, when Daniel came home, they moved around each other carefully. They spoke about dinner, the weather, the neighbor's new dog, but not about what really needed to be said. Finally, Amara sat across from him and said, "I need to be honest. There's more I didn't say." Daniel looked up, guarded. She confessed about the message, the cafe, the feelings she hadn't yet understood. She told him she didn't intend for it to go that far, but the truth was that she let it happen because something inside her had been restless, and she didn't even realize it until it was too late. Daniel's expression didn't change much. He listened. When she finished, he leaned back and said, "You should have come to me the moment you felt something was off." Not him. His voice was calm, but the hurt was clear. "You chose to share yourself with someone else, even if nothing physical happened." She nodded, tears silently falling. "I was scared of what it meant," she said. "I thought if I ignored it, it would go away. But I only made it worse." They sat in silence again. After a while, Daniel said, "I don't know what this means for us yet. But I need space. Not forever. Just some time." That night, he slept in the guest room. Amara didn't try to stop him. She knew he needed the distance. She spent the night thinking about everything she'd risked, how a moment of emotional weakness had cracked the most beautiful part of her life. It hadn't been about Zane. It had been about something deeper she needed to face within herself. Over the following days, Daniel kept his distance. They spoke when necessary but lived like polite roommates. Amara poured her heart into her blog, writing a piece she never published, about honesty, choices, and the price of silence. One evening, Daniel joined her on the porch. They didn't talk much, just sat together. And though nothing was resolved, it was a beginning. Healing wouldn't be instant, and forgiveness couldn't be rushed. But Amara had learned something painful and valuable, that betrayal doesn't always roar. Sometimes, it arrives quietly, disguised as curiosity, and if left unchecked, it tears through love like wind through glass. Now, all she could do was be patient, rebuild trust brick by brick, and hope that love, true love, was still somewhere underneath the rubble.